Okay, so finally, Mac Jones gets drafted. He's going to the New England Patriots, and I know a lot of people are going to see this as a great situation right away. And I can't get behind it. Yes, I understand, and I am of the opinion as well that Bill Belichick may easily be the best coach in the entire NFL. Yes, that can be true, and at the same time, it doesn't mean that Mac Jones is going to be a fantastic option in fantasy football. The reason for this is because we're looking at Mac Jones as a quarterback that doesn't give us the most important thing that he can in 2021 at the quarterback position, and that is rushing upside. So, of course, Mac Jones can be a good starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Of course, he can be a great starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. But if he isn't giving us rushing upside, I don't necessarily know what we are going to be looking for, especially in fantasy, because we go through and we go, okay, you know what? I mean, if he's not going to give us the minimum 300 rushing yards, maybe he's not going to give us any shot at any rushing touchdowns. He better have an elite supporting cast. He better have some guys around him that can make plays after the catch. And that's simply not the case. I mean, you go through and yes, this team spent a ton of money at the wide receiver position in free agency. They spent a ton of money at the tight end position, also deciding to go and bring in a Hunter Henry, a Jonnu Smith. And initially, I said that those landing spots as the New England Patriots for both of those tight ends, they were horrible. And the reason for that is because you had Cam Newton as the starting quarterback, where Cam Newton, we knew once they got to the goal line, I mean, it was power run, power run, power run. He was going to be vulturing so many touchdowns away from the other players there. Where now I think that, yes, Cam is most likely going to be the starter to begin the season, but Mac Jones should easily be expected to come in and replace Cam at some point. And when that happens, I think you're actually going to see a bump up for Jonnu Smith. I think you're going to see a bump up from Hunter Henry, because you shouldn't expect to get vultured at the goal line. And as well, you're going to be seeing the same thing with the running backs. Now, this doesn't mean that Mac Jones is going to be a good fantasy option. It just means we should expect more passing volume with Mac Jones than you would with Cam Newton. But I mean, you go to the best wide receivers on this team, you pull up their depth chart. I mean, Nelson Aguilar, N'Keal Harry, Kendrick Bourne. Like, are you very excited about any one of those players? I mean, maybe Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers showed something at least last season. I mean, we did not see anything with N'Keal Harry. But I just look at this as going, you know what? He has easily the worst wide receiver room in the entire NFL. And to go along with it, he has no rushing upside. So despite him having the coach, despite him having a fantastic offensive line, I think I'm going to be avoiding Mac Jones, even if he's falling in fantasy drafts, because another thing we have to mention is we started very low on Mac Jones at the beginning of the offseason. And the reason for that is because he was being mocked to be a late first round, maybe sliding up to the mid first at the beginning of the offseason. And we were looking at the historical hit rates for quarterbacks that were drafted in those ranges. And we were going, you know what? They are not that high. I mean, if he's going to be a top 5 pick, it's a completely different scenario. If he's going to be a top 5 pick, we can be a lot more excited, especially if he's going to a situation like the 49ers. But falling all the way down to 15, that does not guarantee him a long-term starting job. We saw this same thing with a Josh Rosen. We saw this same thing with a player like Dwayne Haskins, and that if you don't have that top 5, 6 overall picks in your draft profile, if you are not having that with your contract, really, you are going to see these teams be willing to move on from these quarterbacks a little bit earlier than you would like to. So maybe Mac Jones struggles a little bit early on. He doesn't have the same long-term job stability that a player like Trey Lance does historically. So for the long-term security, for the lack of receiving weapons, for the lack of rushing upside, I am probably going to just be avoiding Mac Jones in fantasy football drafts and dynasty superflex drafts, regardless of whatever it is. But yeah, guys, let me know what y'all are thinking in the general chat. We have Point God out here saying awful pick. Stidham part 2. And it says from Smith, Waddle, and Najee to N'Keal the Bust Harry, Nelson Aguilar, and Sony Michel. I know, guys, imagine that. I mean, he was throwing to Waddle, Smith, and had Najee Harris in the backfield, and now he has N'Keal Harry, Nelson Aguilar, and Sony Michel. Man, that's a great point. I mean, talk about getting a significant downgrade in your supporting cast going from college to the NFL level. That is very sad to see, but yeah, let me know what y'all are thinking. Of course, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the